And that's the debate hall here at Washington University this morning, the site of tonight's main event. Right now, the drama is off that stage and behind the scenes. And joining us now for some more insights into the drama are Susan Page, Washington bureau chief of USA Today, Jamelle Bouie, who is the chief political correspondent for Slate magazine, and a CBS News political analyst, Peggy Noonan, columnist for the Wall Street Journal and CBS News contributor, and John Heilemann, co-managing editor of Bloomberg Politics. Peggy, I want to start with you. So Rudy Giuliani said Donald Trump could have a St. Augustine moment, change radically after this event and be a totally different man.
After this trauma of the release of an 11-year-old tape. Well, I know you spoke to him of the city of God and the city of man. In this world, all miracles are possible. People do change their nature and change their character. I'm not sure what Rudy Giuliani was referring to as the reason there might be a change of nature or character there. It seems to me Mr. Trump might speak of his essential nature and what all of that stuff is this evening.
Yeah, that's a tall order.
Yeah.
John, what could Donald Trump have learned over the last year that taught him that saying sort of in a lighthearted way that it was fun to assault women? I'm not sure how those two things are connected.
Well, I think if we're speaking in hypotheticals now, right? There's a hypothetical miracle that could occur, St. Augustine. The more probable hypothetical, on the basis of everything we've seen from Donald Trump's debate performances, the interviews he's given, the last debate performance, and how he reacted after the debate performance and continuing to attack Alicia Machado, I think the more plausible hypothetical is he's learned nothing, and that his performance tonight will be much less St. Augustine than something closer to the things that have gotten him in so much trouble so far. On the basis of history, there's no reason to think that we will see a new Donald Trump. None. There's no reason. I'm not saying we won't, but there's no reason to think that we will.
Susan, what do you think about this? The departures in the Republican Party that started to happen yesterday that seem to be kind of rolling. Again, people who aren't just saying tisk tisk, but who are saying I will not vote for him, and then others who are saying Mike Pence should be at the top of the ticket.
We have never seen anything like this before in modern American politics. It wasn't just Republicans. The Republican National Chairman released a statement criticizing him. The highest ranking Republican in the nation, House Speaker Paul Ryan, disinvited him to share a stage with him in Wisconsin. Senators in tough races are withdrawing their endorsement of him. This is a political apocalypse. And it's the sort of, we've had October surprises before. We've never had something like this from which a candidate has survived and gone on to win the election.
So Jamelle, a lot of what I hear is people saying, well, but there have been a lot of these moments that Donald Trump has had, and people thought he was in trouble, and then nothing happens. Is this the same situation, or?
I don't think this is the same precisely because so many Republican leaders are leaving his camp. I think that sends a signal to voters that this is very different, and I think there's a real possibility that Republicans are courting on November 8th a kind of triple undervote, right? That demoralized Republicans who don't vote down ballot because they're angry at the party. Remember, most Republicans still want Trump at the top of the ticket, and then also, I already said demoralized Republicans, so that's a double undervote. I think sort of what's interesting about all of this is that this is the moment which is driving so many Republicans away. We have witnessed for the past year a campaign whose central message to the country was that if you elect me, I will use state power to repress Hispanic immigrants, Muslim Americans, and recently African Americans at stop and frisk. And I think it says something not flattering about the Republican Party, that it's begun to leave Trump when the comment finally hits a group of voters that actually they rely on to win elections.
Peggy, I was talking to a senior Republican yesterday who kind of brought up this point, which is that as they were thinking about whether to leave Donald Trump, the worry was, if I leave now, why didn't I leave when his announcement speech was about Mexicans being rapists and on down the line? They had trouble explaining why this was the thing that broke that was the straw that broke the camel back, and previous ones hadn't been.
Yeah, maybe. It just seems to me this overwhelming story. I agree with Susan so much. This is a devastating moment for Trump. It's not as if he was going up, 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 and then something bad happened and he plummets. He'd been going down and down, Now something bad happens. We are a 47-47 country, more or less. The Trump voters in your focus group more or less said nothing, this isn't going to change anything for us. In a funny way, nobody is as unillusioned about their candidate as Donald Trump supporters.
Right.
They had no illusions about him, so it's not as if this tells them anything they didn't know, but it'll hurt Trump with a few of them because nobody likes proof that their assumption that your nature is low is correct. I think the proof part of it was hurtful, but still, at the end of the day, this doesn't help Trump. It hurts him very seriously. And as Schieffer said, every Republican I've talked to in the past few days think it's over.
John, I'm sorry, Peggy. John, I think part of your answer is in the answer to your question comes in your opening comment about this. Donald Trump has been engaged in racist, nativist, xenophobic rhetoric in the past, but he's never suggested that he condoned and in fact practiced a crime. Sexual assault is the phrase you used and appropriately used. And I think for a lot of Republicans and a lot of people, that is the thing that's gone over the line. Again, not to in any way excuse some of his previous rhetoric, but the thing that you can't argue for many Republicans and obviously many Democrats is for a nominee who seems to be saying sexual assault is okay and I've been involved in it myself and being sort of boastful about it.
Right.
That is a Rubicon that has been crossed.
I do think it's striking that the same morning this came out on Friday, Donald Trump also said in a statement that he believed the Central Park Five were guilty and presumably thinks they should have been executed. And that to me is also of a level beyond the pale for a presidential candidate, and that did not attract, I think the only Republican who said anything about that is John McCain.
Because the Central Park Five were declared innocent.
Right.
And okay, we're going to hold it there. We're going to take a short break and we'll be right back with more Face the Nation from St. Louis. And we're back with our panel. Susan, you were with Mike Pence on Thursday. Where do you think he is on all of this?
You know, I spent the day with him as he was on a bus tour across Pennsylvania. I interviewed him twice. He denounced Hillary Clinton, you might expect that. And I said, well, you know, there are questions about Donald Trump's integrity too, and he defended Donald Trump to the hilt. A good man, a family man. And I just wonder what Trump's running mate would say today if he was sitting down for that interview.
Yeah, he had said he has the highest integrity. John, what do you think about, there are these fantasies out there about Trump disappearing from the ticket, Pence running. That's what Rob Portman suggested. I'm voting for Mike Pence. Is any of that possible? Is it really being discussed?
I think it's being discussed pretty actively, and I think the question is, Major made the right point earlier, which is we have to wait to see what happens in this debate performance tonight. Not that I think that it will change maybe the ultimate electoral dynamics, but in terms of where Trump is relative to the party, what happens on Monday, depending on how he performs, I think the party leaders, electeds, everyone has no influence over Trump whatsoever about whether he stays in this race. I do think there is one set of people who have influence over him, and that's his family. And if this turns into a total cataclysm, as it seems to be, the Trump brand, the family name, the financial implications of that, those kids, Ivanka, Jared, or Ivanka and her husband Jared, Don Jr., Eric Trump, Tiffany, all of them have a lot, just talking just pure dollars and cents here, they have a lot at stake in what happens to Donald Trump and the family name. I think they are the only ones who might be able to influence him to get out. The only ones. I'm not sure they will, but they're the only ones with the influence.
Peggy.
Tonight could be a disaster for Trump, in part because there's no sense that he has been practicing, working on what he's going to do. I mean, all the reports are he's been resisting all of that. This is going to be a hard night for him. It's in the round. Some questioner will probably bring up the mess of the past few days. But as for fantasies about removing him from the top of the ticket, I got to tell you, 11 states are already voting in early voting, fixed ballots. 8 more join that number by this Wednesday. Right. When you've got 19 states that are already voting, I don't see how you change your nominees.
And I would just add to that, again, most Republican voters want Trump at the top of the ticket. I think the idea that Republican leaders could somehow get Trump off the top of the ticket while essentially sticking their fingers in the eyes of half their voters is, you know, if they're trying to avoid a disaster or a civil war, that is a disaster in a civil war.
It would be chaos. Let's switch to Hillary Clinton. Susan, quickly, these excerpts of her speeches, the ones they've been trying to keep under lock and key, finally got out. There's a difference between Hillary Clinton in public and private. Isn't that her underlying challenge of her campaign?
It is, and you heard in your focus group how little affection even some of the Clinton voters had for her. So and you'd think we'd be talking about that tonight or today, and you'd think we'd be talking about Bill Clinton saying the situation with the Affordable Care Act is crazy. but we're not because she has had this great gift of Donald Trump.
I was struck, Jamelle, at how much more passion there was in the focus group. And those were people of all different positions, more passion when they talked about Hillary Clinton and her downside than Donald Trump, who they were letting off the hook, saying this was locker room behavior.
I think some of this gets to what I think is true, not just with voters, but kind of across how we as a country has approached Donald Trump, which is that I think people look at Hillary Clinton and they say she could be a president, and so we approach her and talk about her and criticize her as if she could be a president. I think really at base, a lot of people don't really believe that Donald Trump could have ever won. And as a result, there's a willingness to kind of look past things that are plainly disqualifying and plainly offensive because, again, this guy's just a clown.
John, how damaging is the Clinton excerpts that are now out?
I think in the context of the work that have been released, not that damaging. But I also think that one of the things that we're all sort of looking past on both sides is that there are going to be worse Donald Trump tapes between now and Election Day, and there are probably going to be worse Hillary Clinton emails between now and Election Day. Again, I don't know what electoral effect those things will have, but there are more shoes to drop. We will be in a hailstorm of footwear before we get to November 8th. And I think if it's 4 weeks out and these are the things that are being leaked, just imagine what happens next week and the week after and the week after that, because you don't drop your heaviest shoes a month away from Election Day.
And once
All right,
again,
John.
the debate is entirely about things that are not about voters and their lives. It's entirely about the personalities and character of the candidates.
We'll have to end it there on the Imelda Marcus hailstorm of shoes from John Heilemann and the Metaphor Challenge today. I want to thank our panel. We'll be back in a moment.